Hey retailers, welcome to this week's workshop. Now, this workshop is based on some principles or a module that I work through with my retail business clients, and this is based on what I call the expense reduction approach. So this is like a system that I've developed that I was using in my retail pharmacies, and I'm just going to share a little bit about it with you today. In this workshop. So if you're watching this live, I'd love it if you could pop the word live. If you're watching the replay, pop the word replay. Hopefully my mic's working. I think it is. Yep. There is a worksheet associated with this workshop, as always. So if you want a copy of the worksheet, just pop the word worksheet in the comment section below. And either myself or the team will get it out to you. I think that's all the housekeeping that we've got. So if you think you know somebody who would find this useful, just make sure you tag them as well. I think it's going to be good for them also. So here we go. This is the expense reduction approach. And I'm just going to launch into it right now. So, one of the biggest frustrations we have as retailers, obviously, is trying to get an understanding of, where is all our money going? So not only from a cash flow perspective, like the way it's flowing in and out of our retail businesses and our shop. And, many of you know that I've spoken about this at length and at nauseum before. I think that's one of the key things that we need to be on top of. But also as a retailer, one of the other ends that we should be looking at is trying to figure out where all our money is going on the expense side. Now, I know all of us as retailers, even all business owners, we know we should be reviewing our expenses on a regular basis. And, many of us, we might take some time to look at it, some not. But the main issue here is why are our expenses so high? How do we go about controlling them? And more importantly, the problem tends to be we tend to think about how am I going to reduce our expenses, but we never actually, get around to doing it. I don't know about you, but I'm sure you are the same. Like when I was running my retail pharmacies, I had this constant niggling on the back of my mind that I had to be looking at my expenses, right? And you realize that perhaps one of your utility bills has gone up in a month, and that's when you sort of dive deep a little bit and try to renegotiate with the supplier or find another utilities provider, and then you sort that little battle out, and then you kind of forget about it because you go back to running your retail business on a daily level, right? And this happens because, like I said, we're too busy running our retail businesses on a day-to-day level. We don't actually take the time to look at our expenses on a regular basis, right? And in fact, from working with many retail business owners, many of us are either we're have a little bit of reservation with respect to ringing up a supplier and negotiating. Perhaps we don't know how to talk to them. There's particular ways and techniques that we can do that by when you ring a supplier and talk to them. And of course, like I mentioned, if you want a copy of the worksheet, just put the word worksheet. But all these little strategies are what I walk through with my clients on how to do in their retail business. So, that's some of the causes of what basically is going on with us when we're running our retail business, on why we sort of overlook this part of our business. If we get this right, this has such a domino flow-on effect, right? Because once we start to get our expenses under control, it is one of the quickest ways to flush our bank account with cash. Obviously, once we start to reduce our expenses, our profitability will go up. And once we get this system right, and I talk about the word system, which I'm going to harp on in a little bit longer. Because what we actually need to do, because of all the mistakes that we're making, it's best to create a system that handles all our expenses, and a system needs to be something that's almost automated, that occurs regularly and can happen without you. And once you start to get this system into place, and also once you start to review your expenses, you really start to fully understand with X-ray vision of what's happening in your business. And like many of us, even a small percentage decrease, in our expenses can lead to significant decreases, basically. So what am I talking about? Like if we all have a whole heap of suppliers and utility bills and expenses in our business, even just a small percentage decrease, right? Imagine that if you're doing a small percentage decrease, a couple of times a month or every month, talking to a particular supplier, and if you're rolling that out over 12 months, you can achieve some significant decreases in your expenses, and all that is pure bottom line. That's pure cash in your bank, and that's just contributing to your profit as well. So it sounds really, really easy. But like many of us business owners, if we don't have a system in place to look after these things, to manage these things, to decrease our expenses, we're just going to continue doing the same thing that we're always going to be doing, and we're just going to get fucked, basically. So it's not right. So it can be done in a much better way. So here's what you need to do. I'm going to walk you through what you need to do. Obviously, like I said, if you work with us, we walk through directly with our clients all the actual how to do it. But I'm going to walk you through what you need to do, and you can take away some of these things quite easily and start to implement them in your retail business in the next 7 days until the next time I get on here, right? So let's just rock and roll and say what you need to do. So goes without saying, we need to have our profit and loss reports handy. So, for many of us retailers, we get these profit and loss reports from our accountants or bookkeeper, and we don't really look at it. Yep, I get it. Same thing happened to me. Or for some of us, we may not even get them at all. So that's going to be step one, because we need to know what our expenses are. And you may know what your expenses are because you pay them by your credit card or by internet banking, but having them in a format like your profit and loss statement or an expense statement or a ledger just makes it super easy for us to move through the next phases of how we're going to tackle this, right? So we need to get your P&L reports handy. So what we then need to do is start analyzing our expenses, and it doesn't need to be anything crazy. Hopefully, your P&L reports are going to be in alphabetical order or categorized, which is a good way to start, because we really need to chunk down what we're going to be attending to in our expense reports, right? And, we're going to have things on there like suppliers, utilities, some expenses you're not going to be able to sort of move a little bit. But, what I'm trying to get across here is we just need to chunk it down because, like anything in life, if we look at this overwhelming list of lines and numbers and all this kind of shit in there, it can get very, very overwhelming. So if you chunk it down, break it up into little sections, it just makes it so much easier to tackle. And our brain can actually handle the information a lot better if it's chunked down, whether it's chunked down by supplier, like I said, or utilities provider, or even alphabetically. We just need some way that information is there so we can start analyzing the data properly, right? And it's not going to take long at all. The next thing, which I'll touch on over here, is we need to start removing personal expenses from our business, right? So I've spoken about this before. I think this is a key step in flushing your bank account with cash and also increasing profitability and thereby increasing the valuation of your business. Now, many of us retailers, we're not thinking about selling our stores. But, as I keep harping on about, I really believe we should be setting up our stores so we're ready to sell. And the consequence of this is, right, if we're constantly doing that, we're going to be creating a really efficient and optimized business. Because when you start working towards the sale goal, everything needs to be Mickey Mouse, everything needs to be proper. so that we can sell it. And if you do go through that exercise on a daily basis with your business, you're just going to end up with a much better business. And one component of that is to take out your personal expenses. It is a hard pill to swallow. I had to swallow this pill very early on when I was running my pharmacy businesses, but it makes a really big difference. Obviously, with my clients, we work through that and we go through that whole process. But suffice to say, what you need to do now is just from now on, no more personal expenses coming out through your shop. All right. So the next step to getting on top of this expense situation is to create a system, right? So you need to come up with a way that your expenses are going to be tackled, reviewed on a regular basis. And, if we all understand what a system is, a really good system ensures that it happens continuously. And, hopefully it gets to the stage where you don't need to touch it and you're 100% not involved in the system. And that's an ideal way to set everything up, because then when you're hanging out on the beach in Thailand, you know that this system is constantly running without you in your shop, and your business is going to get more and more efficient. And the last thing we need to do when it comes to creating this system is we need to put this in the calendar. So that means that this system runs regularly. We have a calendar date diarized so that this process is run. And I think that's an often overlooked piece in the way that we run our business. I think many of us retailers, we kind of run on the fly. And having a simple system that includes a calendar component, and I'm harping on that, is it just ensures that we don't forget things. Obviously, this, and it gets done, right? So I think that's super, super important. So there are the main points with respect to how you would approach this expense reduction system in your retail business. So we're just going to go back here and see what else we're going to yabble about. So that's what you need to do. So basically, in summary, so if you want to be hitting, doing those slam dunks in your retail business, if you really want to be firing on all cylinders and really maximizing the amount of cash flow and profitability in your retail business, this is where we need to start, right? So this is, like I said, taking this approach will increase the amount of cash in your bank account. It's just pure cash going in, because when you really think about it, these savings that you're going to make, and if you do it regularly, compounds. Thus, in turn, you're going to increase your profitability, because obviously your expenses are lower. So your net profit at the end of your reporting period will be so much greater, because like I keep harping on about, just a small decrease in your expenses compounded over 12 months. And then if you're continually doing that all the time, it's going to have big impact on your business. And like I said, we need to create a system. I've harped on about that ad nauseum. So we want to create a system so it's repeatable, it happens without you, and it's ongoing. And the last thing is, we always want to make sure that we take action, and we always want to make sure that, we've got access to all this information that we have, and we just need to obviously act on it and take action. I can't remember if there's anything else for me to talk about, because I think that's about it. Yeah, cool. Awesome. So like I said, super important and such an easy component in our business to get some really quick wins to increase our cash in our bank account. Remember, retailers, if you want a copy of this, just pop the word worksheet below and we will get it out to you. Other than that, until next Thursday, maybe, we'll speak then, and ciao.